Vidyasaki, so I'm going to make a start. My name is Dharmanatha, and I have other people with me in the flesh, as it were. So Vidyasaki is sort of directly in front of me and is running the technical side of things, which I'm really grateful for, because I would be very lost if I tried to do that. And stage left, we have Artist City, who some of you will, quite a few of you, I guess, will know from the centre and from these meditation evenings over the last 6 months, something like that, on YouTube. And we have Liz, who usually runs the technical side and is here in body and spirit. And stage right, slightly stage right, I have Samudra Ghosha. And I'm saying stage left and stage right because I'm on a stage. I'm on the stage at Cambridge Buddhist Centre, which is really strange for me, because this is the second time in 6 months that I've set foot in the Buddhist Centre. I haven't been barred or anything. I just, for obvious reasons, we've been unable to open up fully. And we still can't, but we do have the opportunity to have a slightly larger team with us. And I'm getting used to that. It's strange. I'm more used to speaking to you and speaking to other people on Zoom. And somehow, over the last, it is 6 months, isn't it? Over the last 6 months, I have found a faculty for connecting with people, feeling connected with people through these sort of media, through YouTube and through Zoom. So I have a real sense of you being in the Buddhist Centre with us this evening. And I'm sort of hoping that's reciprocal. I'm hoping that you too have a feeling of being with us and with everybody else that's joined in on YouTube, so that we're all here together at the Buddhist Centre, and we're all practicing together, because that's something really precious, I find, practicing with other people. And it's also a condition that will lead to what I'm going to talk about tonight. It leads to positive emotion, being with other people. It's a condition that leads to that. This is our third in a series of 8 meditation nights that are linked together with a theme that we've called the way to full potential. And it's sort of, these evenings are sort of a companion piece to a course we have running on Saturday mornings called the Journey and the Guide. And I'm very pleased some people who are on the course with us on Saturday are here tonight as well. If you're not on the Journey and the Guide course, that's fine. You're still very welcome to be here. So do stay. What we're hoping is that these evenings will stand alone, as it were, that they will make sense to you, whether you've been to the other meditation evenings in the series, or whether or not you're on the Journey and the Guide. It's my job to try and make sense to you. So I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes about positive emotion and how we might cultivate it. And then we're going to meditate together for 20 minutes, 25 minutes or so. And our practice this evening is the mindfulness of breathing. Well, sort of. It's sort of the mindfulness of breathing. I'm going to alter it slightly to bring in this evening's theme, to bring in positive emotion. So we might not do what you're used to if you've practiced with us before. We usually count the breaths in a couple of the stages and then move our attention around the breath. If you're new to meditation practice, or if your meditation practice is a bit rusty, then we have posted some videos on this. I don't know, it's a channel, isn't it? Is it a channel? Yeah, on this, I'm Down with the Kids, it's a channel. So we've posted some videos. It's actually Vidyasaki leading us through our 2 main practices: the metta bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness, and the mindfulness of breathing. And they're led more classically, as it were. So do have a look at those. Not now. Don't go anywhere now. That was quite forceful, wasn't it? Please stay. Have a look afterwards if you think it might help. And after we've meditated, we will have an opportunity for some questions from yourselves. So you can put those on the chat or the comment section, and we'll try and respond to them all. Over the past 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of this particular series, Vidyasaki and Samudra Ghosha have taken us through integration. So trying to cultivate integration through our meditation practice, working to become a more collected, a more whole, I guess a more coherent human being. And that work continues. We have not finished with integration by any stage, but we are naturally moving towards the next stage as well, which is positive emotion. In a way, integration flowers into positive emotion. And I've called this talk, actually it's a talkette. I think Vidyasaki made that point to me very clearly, probably with an eye on the clock. It's a talkette, it's a short talk. I've called it Flourishing into Positive Emotion. And I've used the word flourish because I've been reading The Journey and the Guide, which is the book that accompanies the course we're doing on Saturdays. It's written by Maitreya Bandhu, and he uses the word flourish quite a lot in the book. And I've been listening to some talks, and I don't think he uses it in quite this way in the book. But in one talk, I heard him say that what we're doing is we are acting to flourish our lives, and to flourish the lives of others. And I just found that a really beautiful way of putting our work here, really, flourishing. And the word conjures up for me gardens and plants. We talk about our gardens flourishing, don't we? Haven't the roses been fantastic this year? They've just been huge, healthy rose heads, just really robust and colourful and fragrant. And we talk about people. And we use the word flourish as well. When we say they're flourishing, we mean they are growing positively, growing in a healthy direction. And when they've reached the end of a particular journey, we often talk about them flourishing, becoming the beautiful flowers they've always had in them. They've always had the potential to be. And one more reason, before I stop going on about the title in a moment, but there's one more thing, and as I mention it, I do it. I quite like, because flourish is a gesture, isn't it? I can be quite, I can flourish a bit with my hands. Okay, so that's the title, positive emotion. I'm going to use the term positive emotion throughout. And as I do so, I'm aware that it's a bit of shorthand, really, that we use. It means more than positive, and it means more than emotion. Well, that includes both those things. So positive emotion is any state of mind, any mental state which is healthy and wholesome, which leads us towards what is best for us and what is best for others, what's best for the world, even. So what flourishes us, back to the flourish again. And we have a feel for what these positive emotions are, I think, a natural feel for what they are. Things like generosity, kindness, compassion, and other qualities. I'm sure you can think of some. It'd be quite a long list if I tried to go through all of the positive emotions we can bring to mind. And we're cultivating positive emotion tonight. We're looking at that. And to cultivate positive emotion outside of meditation, we can act, we can do things. To cultivate generosity, we can act generously, we can give. We can give of ourselves, we can give things. We can cultivate compassion by acting compassionately, by being kind. Meditation, we're not generally acting out in the world. We're working directly on our minds in meditation. And to cultivate positive emotion in meditation, I'm going to suggest the main way to do this is just to decide to do it, to form an intention to bring whatever positive emotions we wish to bear in our meditation. Just decide to do it. So it's a volition to bring whatever we want to into our meditation practice before we actually start. Although I guess a volition could arise during our practice. We may realize that we could do with a particular flavor, positive emotion, in response to what arises in our meditation. We're inviting them in, as it were, inviting the positive emotions in. I'm going to make a few suggestions about emotions we might like to cultivate tonight. And I'm going to speak a little bit about one in particular, which Subhadra Ghosh mentioned last week, I'm fairly sure. And I think it bears some repetition. And that is honesty. To be honest with ourselves about what we find in our experience when we are practicing. Because as we practice, as we meditate, we potentially open more of ourselves up. There's more of us available. And there may be things that we uncover, things that we see that we're not too keen on, we're not too happy with. And it really helps to be honest about what's there. Not to hide it away or push it away. Just be honest with whatever's present. I remember when I was being taught the two practices which we generally teach, the metta bhavana, cultivating loving kindness, and the practice we're doing tonight, the mindfulness of breathing. And it was quite some time ago, and mindfulness of breathing, fantastic. What a practice. Straight away, an immediate positive connection for me with the mindfulness of breathing. Metta bhavana, not so much. And I still find it a challenging practice, the metta bhavana. Very rewarding, but quite challenging. And we were told about these 5 stages of the metta bhavana, how we would bring 5 people, or 5 groups of people into the meditation, including ourselves. And the 4th stage, we were told we should bring in somebody we were having a difficulty with, or somebody that had a difficulty with us. I think the traditional term may even have been used. We call this stage the enemy sometimes. So bringing an enemy to mind and wishing them well. And I sat there thinking, well, I honestly have no difficulty with anybody. And surely nobody has any difficulty with me. How could anybody be my enemy? Look at me. I was a lot sort of cuddlier then and had more hair. And I did the metta bhavana for quite a while and just missed that stage out, or did something else during the 4th stage, or just sat and twiddled my thumbs if we were being led through it. And then something shifted. And I promise you, if you keep practicing, things will shift. And I found myself with somebody one day, and I realized that I didn't like them very much. So actually a sort of feeling somewhere down here in my belly. I don't like you too much. I didn't say that to them. And it started happening with other people. I thought, I don't like you either. And I mean, that person over there, I really don't like them. And it's somehow, it was as though my practice of meditation and studying Buddhism had flowered into this ability to find new enemies. Yay. Fantastic. And in a way, that's what had happened. I had opened up more of myself, and I was seeing stuff that previously had been going on underneath the surface. And I was being honest about what was there. So I found that really useful. So honesty is the first thing. And I'm just going to suggest that runs through our practice tonight. So I'm going to briefly mention some other positive emotions. We'll meditate quite soon. So some positive emotions, some states of mind you might like to play with in a way. Plays another positive emotion, isn't it? Being playful in our meditation can be very fruitful. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you're happy to do so. And I'm just going to introduce some positive emotions. And if you close your eyes, it might help you to be receptive to how these particular positive emotions, these particular states of mind land with you. And there's no need to remember them. I'm going to repeat them through the meditation. So what we might say when we were forming an intention to work with positive emotion, to cultivate positive emotion in our meditation practice, we might say, as best I can, I'm going to be kind, bring kindness to my meditation, bring a gentle attention to whatever is present and whatever arises during the practice. During the meditation tonight, I'm going to do my best to bring some lightness, even some humor into my practice. A sense of goodwill, a sense of humor, a sense of lightness, as best I can. And I'm going to try and cultivate acceptance, to accept whatever arises, whatever's present, as best I can, approaching it with a value of non-judgmentality. And finally, I'm going to work to bring some curiosity into my practice. I'm going to be curious about whatever is present, perhaps generate some interest in whatever's happening in my meditation, however things are. Okay. So that's the list. You could, of course, add qualities that appeal to you to the list and bring those into your practice this evening. So we're going to meditate now. And we might reflect, actually, that while I've said that we're not acting out in the world at the moment, we have acted to come here. We've acted kindly to ourselves. We've come here to meditate because we think it's going to help us. I hope that's why we're here. And as we set up our meditation posture, again, this is an act or a series of acts to make sure that we are comfortable and supported through our meditation practice. So I put a blanket over myself to keep myself warm. And we can consider our posture, how our feet are in contact with the ground. Ideally, if you are sat on a chair with your feet flat on the ground, so feeling of being grounded, being supported by the earth. Making sure as best we can that our bottoms are firmly connected with our cushions or our seats. Again, sensing that connection with the ground. And considering our backs, upright but not rigid, just allowing the back to follow its natural curves. So if we need to adjust our posture now or during the meditation, trying to do so gently and kindly. And now we can start paying some attention to any physical sensations. And we could move up, starting at our feet, feeling anything that we can, anything that's present in our feet, perhaps the contact with the ground, temperature. And whatever we find, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, being gentle, being kind in our attention as best we can. And just allow our attention to move from our feet to our calves and shins, to our knees, front of the knees, back of the knees, and gently to the thighs, the front of the thighs and the back of the thighs, noticing whatever sensations are present. Maybe some pressure from contact with the seat or the cushion. Moving our attention or allowing our attention to move to the pelvic area, to the buttocks, hips, the groin. Noticing what's present. Kind attention, gentle attention to whatever's there. Moving to the back, the lower back, shoulders, shoulder blades, the arms, so the upper arms and the forearms, and the hands. The hands are a rich source of sensation. Noticing what's there. Just gently bringing our attention to these areas. And now noticing the front of the torso, the chest and the belly. Becoming aware of any sensations here. Perhaps the movement of the chest and the belly with the in-breath and the out-breath. And now the head and the shoulders, the neck, These are areas where we can hold some tension. So if you find any tension here or anywhere else, we can act kindly to just let it go. Just releasing any tightness that we find. Now aware of the whole body, sat here, comfortable, upright, and alert, ready to meditate. Mindfulness of breathing. I'd like to take a few deep breaths in and out, just to make contact with the sensations of the breath. And if you've done this, then allowing your breath to return to its normal pattern, whatever the pattern is tonight. And noticing as best you can the whole of the in-breath and the whole of the out-breath. And working with bringing kindness, gentleness to this first stage of the mindfulness of breathing. Maybe a sense of holding the breath gently. Allowing the breath to breathe itself. And if we become distracted by a thought or a feeling, a sound, or an emotion, whatever it is, approaching that with some kindness and gentleness, whatever is there. It's just something our minds tend to do. Responding with kindness, and when we're ready, returning to the breath and the sensations of the breath. Being honest with whatever is present, whatever arises. And the second stage of this practice, we will stay with the breath. Just being with the breath as it breathes itself. And we don't need to let go of kindness. We can still be kind to ourselves and to whatever arises. And on this stage, we'll also bring in lightness, perhaps even humor. Perhaps particularly if we become distracted. Taking a light approach to the distraction. And perhaps even finding some humour in the fact that we may have gone off on a familiar track of distraction. Here I go again. Thinking about which biscuit I'm going to have after meditation, or whatever it is. A light approach to whatever we find in our experience. And in the third stage, still with the breath, noticing, paying attention to the breath, to the in-breath and the out-breath. And again, we can keep the other qualities in our minds if we wish. And also during this stage, bring acceptance to our practice. Accepting whatever's there. Accepting how the breath is today, how the breath is right now. Not trying to change it. And if we become distracted, as best we can, accepting that this has happened. It's already happened. We can't change that. And we can accept it. And we don't need to judge whatever's there. And every time we become distracted, when we've noticed it, accepted it, returning to the breath, accepting that this is how meditation is. We're with the breath, then we're distracted, then we're back with the breath. And the fourth, the final stage of our meditation tonight, still with the breath, noticing the breath. And while we can keep bringing to mind the qualities, the positive emotions that we've already engaged with, now bringing curiosity to our practice. Curious about the breath. Perhaps becoming interested in the breath. Noticing that the breath has a pattern. But it isn't continuous. There are small gaps, small breaks between the end of the out-breath and the beginning of the in-breath. We could notice how the body moves with the breath. Not just the chest and the belly. Perhaps noticing smaller movements. The rear of the torso. Movement of the back. The shoulders move slightly with the breath. Whatever we notice, as best we can, becoming curious, interested. And as we prepare to bring this meditation to a close, letting go of any effort. Just sitting for a little longer until I ring the bell. Sitting with nothing to do. When you're ready, if you've had your eyes closed, you might like to open them again. And maybe come out of your meditation posture if you'd be more comfortable doing that. So the team had a chat about this a week or so ago, about how it really is. It's quite a funny thing to do to take you through a meditation where hopefully you have you found some some interest and some calm and some depth in your experience. And then ask you to ask any questions you've got. I'm aware that can be a bit jarring. So do take your time. By the same token, if and when you feel ready to do so and you want to do so, then please do type a question into the comments section. I hadn't realised it, but that's probably why I put curiosity at the end. I wanted to see how I could stir some curiosity up about your experience. And of course, you don't have to ask a question. You could just make a comment about how you found the meditation this evening. Of course, we do have a team here. Anybody on the team has any questions or comments?
I noticed that curiosity did open me up just a little bit more to what was going on. Or I suppose I thought it was interest, but yeah, sort of a bit more interested in what was going on.
Yeah.
And doing that. It's noticed some subtlety. Probably wouldn't have done otherwise.
Okay, that's interesting. Thanks so much, Gosh. I don't know whether, because I'm not entirely sure whether that would have been heard, but oh, it was. That's great. That's great. Okay, so something about something opening up. It's quite powerful, isn't it? I think just bringing a quality to mind has the potential to open us up to something we hadn't noticed in our experience.
I was quite struck in your talk actually before how you actually became aware of some sort of more difficult emotions actually as a consequence of meditation, and you said it's a good thing that you became aware of those, and I noticed that Adele has just said tonight's meditation practice opened up some painful emotions, and I don't know why. So I wondered if there was something.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Adele. I mean, there is something in the fact that we are opening ourselves up. There's more of us available, and some of it will be painful. And there are even things that are very positive that can be unpleasant and painful. I don't know whether Sumedra Ghosh mentioned this last week, but he certainly talked about feeling a little sense of some shame that he had. I think it was around truthfulness or accuracy, and that's a positive emotion, shame. And it can be quite unpleasant. Most of them are pretty fun and or pleasant or enjoyable, but not all of them. And in a way, I'm putting stuff in boxes, and it doesn't always fit exactly in the box. It's not as neat. Life and our experiences isn't as neat as that. And meditation's like that. It isn't always going to be pleasant. And if it were always pleasant, we'd question its honesty. Yeah. Hope that helps. Yeah.
And Miriam was saying that she found it interesting to bring humour and lightness. She doesn't often drop that into her meditation, but she found it strangely expansive to do that.
Great. Thanks, Miriam. Isn't it strange? I did wonder about it. When I have a sense of humour that's often commented on. I wondered, because in a way, I don't know whether I was clear that I'm not suggesting that everything we do in meditation is hilarious or funny or that we shouldn't take it seriously. But I found humour useful. Maybe sometimes veering towards the sort of irony, the gentle, this is really, here we go again, here I go again, doing this again. Thanks, Miriam. I'm really glad it opened something up for you. Great.
Kindly humour, she says.
Yeah, thanks. That's really important as well, isn't it, Miriam? Because humour can be unkind and can be quite harsh. So it needs to be coupled with kindness, consideration, and in a way, it needs to be appropriate and at the right time. All those things. Yeah, not just here's a joke about my meditation. Thanks. I'm curious about whether everybody's still there.
Yeah, we've still got 21 now, about 23 most of the way through so far.
Fantastic. Great. So we've got a couple more minutes for any more observations or questions that you have out there. Yeah. It's a bit like, because I know you can see me on the stage, but the curtains are drawn in front of me, these stage curtains. It's almost like you're all behind those curtains for me. It's really nice. Yeah.
Siobhan just says, humour is a great connecting emotion. So I enjoy bringing this in, this connecting humour.
That's really nicely observed. And you're very right. I'm really pleasantly surprised that, because I did have doubts about bringing humour in. I'm really very pleasantly surprised that it's worked for some of you. And you're right. We when we're together as a team here, when we're doing stuff in the centre, there's always humour in the air. It is very connecting. Yeah.
So there's a couple of things, but Anna says, I found interesting what you said about shame. Can you talk more about it? I saw it as negative.
Great. Thank you for that. It's quite a big topic, but I'll do my best to be brief. So I think what we may be talking about here is the difference between shame and guilt, or what we would term guilt. So shame is a sort of positive recognition that we have we've gone against our own deeply held values. So I have a value of being wanting to be kind to myself and to others, and I feel ashamed if I am unkind to them. And I do what I do to put it right, as it were, to apologise, make things right. Guilt, the unskillful emotion of guilt, is about beating ourselves up for having done something that we're not happy with, and it often sort of proliferates into self-criticism. I think that's probably it. So guilt is not a positive emotion. It's a harmful sort of self-critical self-perpetuating way of forming a negative view of oneself based upon what one has done. And shame is a healthy recognition of the fact that we've sort of stepped out of line, we've let ourselves down, we've let other people down. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Great question. Thank you. Good questions tonight. Is that still time?
Anna says, yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Hurrah, hurrah. I hope it made sense to everybody. I mean, certainly if you come again to the Buddhist Centre, or if you are on the Journey and the Guide course, might well be something that we're able to explore in more detail in the groups we have on the course. Yeah. Really interesting area. Guilt and shame. I'm an ex-Catholic. I have a feeling for unhealthy guilt.
Maybe one more.
Yeah.
It's just an observation. Bringing positive emotions into mindfulness of breathing is really interesting. Do you think it leads to longer periods of meditation?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if it's, I guess, if along the lines of what Samudra Ghosh was saying, if it generates new realizations, new territory for you, as it were, in your meditations, then I guess it might lead you to want to sit longer with your meditation. If that's what you get, if that helps, if that's what you're getting at. It is interesting, isn't it? Because we usually think about the metta bhavana in terms of positive emotion, because it's on the tin, isn't it? It says metta on the tin for metta bhavana, and metta is a positive emotion. Yeah, so I was a little bemused at first when I was told we were doing the mindfulness of breathing tonight, but it's been a lovely exploration for me. I've really enjoyed it as well, bringing positive emotion to mindfulness and breathing quite explicitly in this way. So is that the last of the questions? Great. Okay. Thank you. So thanks ever so much for coming along, everybody. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too. Next week, Samudra Ghosh will be sat here in these actually quite warm cushions now, and we'll be sticking with positive emotion. And Samudra Ghosh will be taking us through the riches of gratitude. A great title. And so we'll be looking at gratitude next week.